Tenamwari. 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 Giving thanks and praises unto the Mother, Father, creative life force of the universe. Giving praises unto our great ancestors. Abibi Tumi, Abibi Fahodie, African power and African liberation for all African people. Is everybody alright? Yeah. You sure? Yeah. Okay, we're gonna get into some things today, kings and queens, yeah? It's a pleasure to be delivering the message for this month's Shemitah, the KWANZAA Shemitah, and I believe it's the first time that I've been blessed with this responsibility, and so we want to give thanks before we go into anything to the leadership of the KWANZAA Revivalist movement for instituting this beautiful and powerful institution called Shemitah, which is basically the institution that launched the KWANZAA Revivalist movement, and this in no small way was the vision and the mission of our spiritual leader, brother leader Mbandaka. So can we hail the leadership of the KWANZAA Revivalist movement and our spiritual leader for the reason why we are here in this place today. And I also have the leadership and my father, brother leader, to thank for instilling in me the celebration of KWANZAA. I'm 37 years old, and for all of those 37 years, I have been celebrating KWANZAA. And so I consider myself somewhat of an authority on the subject, yeah? We can talk some things about KWANZAA. So today, however, we wanna not do when did it start and what are the principles and what are the symbols, yeah? You can get that when you come to the KWANZAA Children's Party or when you come to the KWANZAA celebration of Africa, Bantu and so on and so forth, yeah? But as Uncle Minka just reminded us, KWANZAA, the 7 principles are to be celebrated and observed throughout our entire lives. Yeah. Yeah. And so the purpose for why KWANZAA is celebrated is just as important as the fact that it is celebrated. In fact, the purpose is in some ways more important than the celebration itself. Because the celebration can take on different forms. If it wasn't KWANZAA, we'd have supplements. And if it's not KWANZAA in December, it's Mosiah in the month of Mosiah, or it's Iriji if you're Igbo, or it's Akwasindaye if you are Ashanti, and so on and so forth. Among African people, we have various different celebrations and rituals and holidays and observances, but the purpose for why we celebrate them is what gives meaning to the celebration. So I'm going to be focusing on the meaning within the celebration. Why do we celebrate KWANZAA? What's the purpose of celebrating KWANZAA? And as you can see, the title of the message is KWANZAA, a weapon of cultural revolution. So KWANZAA, I want you to immediately understand, KWANZAA is not just a celebration, it is a weapon. A weapon is a tool of warfare. And if we don't understand KWANZAA as a weapon for revolution, then we don't need to be celebrating KWANZAA. And I hope to make that clear by the end of the message. And this is important, you know why? Because KWANZAA come, we sing enough chants and have some good time and eat up some sweet more food and, you know what I mean, ritualize and ceremonialize with the children. But within that euphoric vibration, the seriousness can get lost. Because we can sing good. Yeah, and the children are talented. And the food is nice. But we're in that euphoria. We don't want to forget the context that we live in and exist in as African people around the world. Are you following me? So let's go forward, yeah? You know, I like to define some terms. If we can go forward when this technology catches up with where I'm at in the message. Right, so let's define. It was a tool of revolution. Let's define culture. All right? I'm gonna ask you to read for me. Yeah? Everybody that can see I go to good school. All right? After number 3. All right? 1, 2, 3.
Culture is the collective personality
All right. Now the first rule of the first principle of KWANZAA is unity. All right. So we're going to try and read in unity. Yeah. Is that all right?
Yeah.
All right. After 3. 1, 2, 3.
Culture is the collective personality of a people, manifested in their natural and complete way of life.
All right. Continue.
Culture is to humans like water is to fish.
All right. So each of us in here has an individual personality. Yeah. But culture is the collective personality. Your personality describes or defines how you behave, how you react to others, and how others react to you, how others see you. Yes? We have an individual personality. And then we have a collective personality that guides how we behave as a unit of people. Yes? Families can have collective personality. The number one thing that I've been told throughout my whole life is, you stay just like your father. It's true. Alright? And that's like God. So we call it a family collective personality. Alright? Then now you have natural and complete way of life. I want to emphasize the term here, complete. Yes? And when we deal with the idea that culture is to humans like water is to fish, we are simply emphasizing the fact that no human being exists outside of a cultural context. It's impossible as a human being to exist outside of a culture. The only question is, what culture and cultural context do you exist within? Is everybody with me?
Yes.
Okay, let's go forward. Let's go forward, right? So we have culture, and then we have mediums of culture. Yes? The tools, mediums through which culture is expressed. Language, names, food, garments, ceremonies, rituals, customs and traditions, family, social structures, music, dance, art, craft, architecture, sports games, recreation, agriculture, technology. And as you can see here, the term ceremonies. Yeah? So KWANZAA is a ceremony, it's a holiday. It comes in the context of a culture. So why is KWANZAA necessary? We're going to skip the spirituality piece for today, only for the sake of time, all right? But another day we can go into what that is, all right? So, within the sojourn of African people, we have been taken through what is called the Ma'afa. Ma'afa is a Kiswahili term. It's been popularized by Mama Marimba Ani. And it is defined as great disaster. And as Brother Leader says, it's not this great disaster, it's colossal destruction. We're referring to the invasion, the conquest, the enslavement, the colonization and neo-colonization of African people. Yes? And so within the context of the Ma'afa, African culture was attacked. And it's easy for us to be identified as African people because, especially those of us in the diaspora, our language was taken away from us. Our names were taken away from us. Yeah? Even our food, although we're so creative, we just recreate the food when we did there. Not true? Yeah? Our garments were taken away from us. Our ceremonies and our rituals were taken away from us, etc., etc., etc. And not only were all these things taken away from us, they were demonized and denigrated. So that if we and when we encounter it, we are inclined to reject it. You following me? We hear an African name, we don't want to give it an African name. Because it's so nice. Yes? We don't want to run an African ceremony or a ritual because that's pagan and heathen and juju. Yeah? Etc., etc. Alright? So, as I said, this terminology, this understanding was given to us by Mama Marimba Ani, and she is the author of the text that you can see on the slide right here now. Okay? So we go forward. The this is symptomatic of the fact that the culture that we are existing within, wherever we are on the planet, yeah, as African people, is a culture that is defined by the myths of white supremacy. Okay? There are no Africans, yeah, no Africans that are existing outside of this cultural context at the moment. Even when we go back home, the African in the bush, yes, exists within the context of white supremacy. They may not be as affected by it as some of us are in certain ways, but the reality is, yes, if the dominant geopolitical reality that controls, yes, your economic and social viability within a society is colonial, even when you're in the bush, you're affected by white supremacy. So what is white supremacy, pardon? Still at their mercy. Yeah? Simple equation. White supremacy is white people plus white culture is superior to black people and black culture.
Never!
That's the equation of white supremacy. It's a myth.
Yes.
But that's their equation. Alright? Put another way. European people and European culture is superior to African people and African culture. Is that what with me?
Yeah.
Alright, simple equation. Yeah? So again, European languages are superior to African languages. European names are superior to African names.
Yeah.
European ceremonies and rituals are superior to African ceremonies and rituals. European custom, European family ideals, European art, European architecture, European sports, European football team.
Yeah.
Who's to put in Senegal later on? Who's to put in Senegal later on? Let's making sure, yeah? I'm making sure there's no secret England supporters in the house, you know what I mean? I have to run you over. Anyway, yes, yeah? And for some of these things, we're not even going to Africa and have architecture and technology and science. Are you following me?
Yeah.
Alright? This is the equation, this is the context, the cultural context in which many of us have been raised as a consequence of the Ma'afa, the invasion, the conquest, the enslavement, the colonization and neocolonization of African people. Okay? This has been our cultural context for the last 500 years at least. Alright. So what this produces and induces in African people is what Baba Komi Campbell calls cultural misorientation. Yeah? And if I've got the book, you know, somewhere about the place, but I'll read you the subtitle. Sure, later on I'll read the subtitle. Yeah? But he considers this to be the #1 threat facing African people in today's world.
True.
Baba Komi Campbell is now our ancestor. Yeah, he passed away a few years ago. Alright? But one of our shining light scholars, yeah, whose name we don't call enough. And as I said, he's got a book on this subject. And in this book, he says, cultural misorientation consists of the existence of a Eurocentric or Arab-centric, Asian-centric self-consciousness in African people, which is consistent with and thereby supported and reinforced by European American culture itself, i.e. the European worldview. How Europeans see the world has been imposed upon our consciousness, and therefore we see the world through European eyes. In short, that's what worldview means. Yes? Because the European or Eurasian, where applicable, worldview is alien and anti-African, is an alien and anti-African reality conceptual system which does not and cannot foster racial cultural affirmation and efficacious functioning in African people as a culturally distinct group that is African people rather than black-skinned Europeans. It is indeed a disordered condition, a mental disorder, mental illness in African people. Yeah? In other words, kings and queens, This is what Baba Wade Nobles, a psychologist, refers to as strange behavior. A clinical term. When African people don't know how to behave like African people, we behave strangely. We do things like give our children European names. We do things like send our children to European schools. Reality. So many of us, all of us in the room, are probably guilty of that one. Not true? Most of us. But we have to realize this is strange behavior. Yes? We do things like vote for the Labour Party. There's a very strange one. You know what I'm saying? We do things like straighten our hair. Very strange behavior. Right? You know what I'm saying? You know? We do things like what he does. You know what I mean? Strange behavior. You know what I'm saying? All these things are products of us being induced into the culture of white supremacy. But on a deeper level, and, you know, we can humorize this thing, but on a deeper level, what we're talking about is the denigration and in some ways the destruction of African views and values in the minds of African people. So we are unable to differentiate ourselves as a people who have been oppressed by another group of people. We are unable to differentiate ourselves from the group of people who have oppressed us and then see ourselves in them image. It's a dangerous condition to be in. Cultural misorientation. Come on. Baba Kambon goes on. It is thus a mentally disordered condition because it leads African people to self-destruct. We become agents of our own oppression because we are culturally misoriented. We don't know who we is. We don't know what name African, so we don't know how to behave like Africa. In other words, this psychological condition leads Africans to subordinate their natural African cultural orientation, values, beliefs, rituals, customs, practices, etc., to non-African and anti-African cultural orientations, thus weakening and suppressing our optimal cultural expressions, empowerment. I'll give you an example of this. We are taught that Westminster democracy is the highest and most advanced form of government ever in human history. That's what we're taught, right? And this is a conclusion that is drawn from the European worldview. They're making that assessment from their own historical center and orientation, and from their own historical center and orientation, it may well be true. But is it true for people that don't have that historical orientation? That is the question. And then within the Eurocentric worldview that teaches us that democracy, Westminster democracy, is the highest form of government, because that cultural orientation is alien to African people, and not just alien, but also anti-African, as established in its behavior to African people. We as African people don't even believe that we have political systems, governance system, that we built civilization, empire, culture, nation. So we buy into the myth that Westminster democracy is the highest form of government. Consequently, view any political election process within a majority African nation, and the preoccupation is with aspiring to Westminster democracy and capitalism as the economic system of Westminster democracy. Is everybody with me?
Yeah.
Cultural misorientation.
Yeah. Word.
Alright, let's go forward. Finally, on this particular point, I'm going to draw on the wisdom of Baba Amilcar Cabral. By the way, this is Baba Amilcar Cabral. For those who may not be aware, freedom fighter from the nation that is now called Guinea-Bissau. This is him, yeah, surrounded by the female regiment of the Guinea-Bissau Liberation Army. Yeah, they had an all-women's military wing, and this is him surrounded by the women. And I always love this image, so that's what I'm presenting to you. You know what I mean? Alright? Because we're talking about KWANZAA as a weapon of what? Cultural revolution. And so Baba Amilcar Cabral has a message that he calls National Liberation and Culture. You can find it on the internet. I would encourage everybody to find it and read it in full. It's an excellent breakdown of how culture relates to a national liberation movement. Amilcar Cabral. And he says, in fact, to take up arms to dominate a people is above all to take up arms to destroy or at least to neutralize, to paralyze its cultural life. This is the key dynamic in any form of oppression. You are destroying the people's cultural lives. So as long as there continues to exist a part of these people retaining their own cultural life, foreign domination cannot be sure of its perpetuation. At any moment, depending on the internal and external factors determining the evolution of the society in question, cultural resistance, which is indestructible, may take on new forms, political, economic, armed, in order to fully contest foreign domination. Now, I intended to include a slide that I remember that I've missed out. But it was intended to be a quote from the aims and objectives of the Organization of Afro-American Unity, as founded by Baba Omowale Malcolm X. And under the heading reorientation, remember that we dealt with cultural misorientation. So once we recognize that we've been culturally misoriented, then we need to engage a process of cultural reorientation. Yes. And he says, they say, as the founding mothers and fathers of the Organization of Afro-American Unity, we must wage a cultural revolution. Come on. To realign ourselves, paraphrasing, with our Africanness. That's Omowale Malcolm X. Yes. The Omowale Malcolm X that they don't quote very often. Yeah. Omowale Malcolm X said we must wage a cultural revolution to reconnect and rediscover ourselves as African people. Is everybody with me? Yeah. Are you sure? Yeah. I know a ShakaRa presentation, I know. I've watched myself. It gets very wordy. 20 words. So we have to make sure everybody with me. Are you with me? Yeah. If you're not, feel free to say. I won't take it personal. You with me? Yeah. All right. Okay. So now, what is the role of holidays and ceremonies within the misorientation and the reorientation process? And this is a classic text, yeah, by a Baba by the name of Ishakamusa Barashango. You hear the name there? Yeah. Ishakamusa Barashango. Yeah. John Smith pales in comparison to Ishakamusa Barashango. Yeah, man, them there for you to pick them, alright? But he has a book, two volumes volumes called African People and European Holidays, a Mental Genocide. And in it, he describes the purposes of holidays, yeah? And he says holidays are the institutionalized celebration of the thoughts and ideas of a particular philosophy and worldview. What do you understand? Holidays are the institutionalized celebrations of the thoughts and ideas of a particular philosophy and worldview. A good example of this is what do you think veterans? Is it Veterans Day? What do you call it? When they celebrate the people that were fight in World War I and World War II.
Remembrance Day.
Remembrance Day. Yes, we must remember those who have fought. Yes, to save and preserve Westminster democracy. Yes. So we're not just celebrating people who are dead, we call them dead. No, we're celebrating them because they fought a war for what? To preserve the institutionalization of particular thoughts and ideas. But think about it. During Mass European War I and Mass European War II, what was the position of African people relative to the people that were fighting this war? Colonialism. So if we celebrate the veterans in the same way that they celebrate the veterans, are we not celebrating our own colonization? More can be said on that because they call it World War. It was really a European war and them dragged the rest of the world into the war. And so we were dragged into the war. So we should remember our ancestors who were dragged into the war. But our orientation should be different from the British orientation. That should be clear, should be obvious. Yeah? Alright. What's the next part? 2. The celebration of holidays establishes and helps to maintain a strong emotional, cultural bond between you and that which you are celebrating. Again, the celebration of holidays establishes and helps to maintain a strong emotional and cultural bond between you and that which you are celebrating. So if we celebrate British veterans of World War I and World War II, then we are developing and cultivating an emotional bond with the colonizer. Yeah, we're coming to Christmas in a second. All right, let's go forward. All right, so I'm a mischievous African. Yeah, I'm a mischievous African on social media, and every now and then I like to ask mischievous questions. All right, and this is one of the mischievous questions that I asked one day on social media. Read it for me after 3. 1, 2, 3.
Black people celebrate Christmas, Halloween, Valentine's Day, Ramadan, Eid, Chinese New Year, Easter, and Thanksgiving, and wear red puppies to celebrate British war events. And then ask, KWANZAA, isn't that a made-up holiday?
I asked this a few years ago on social media. Black people celebrate everything: Christmas, Halloween, Valentine's Day, Ramadan, Eid, Chinese New Year, Easter, Thanksgiving, and wear puppies to celebrate British war vets. And then ask, but isn't KWANZAA a made-up holiday? Now, that's the first point that should be obvious. Is which holiday known to humanity was not made up?
Christmas.
No, seriously. Now, which holiday is a law of nature? That nature organizes itself, yeah, to have a holiday. That the trees and the birds and the bees got together and said, Halloween. Right, hello. Tafadzwa. When did that happen? Yeah, so we should be able to take it for granted that all holidays are made up by people. That's the purpose of holidays. All right? To bring people together. All right? But cultural misorientation has us asking illogical questions. It may even make sense. But it sounds sensible to the culturally misoriented. Yeah? Now, this mischievous question on social media inspired some interesting responses. And one I'm going to share with you. Alright? And this brother, it was a brother if I remember correctly, said, if I'm to answer honestly, because the subject of Christmas came up on the thread. Alright? And the question was being asked, why do people consider Kwanzaa made up and Christmas is just like a knee-jerk, you know? It's second nature. And he said, if I'm to answer honestly, Christmas has centuries of great PR, public relations. Yeah? Christmas meals, movies, music, all add to a great brand. Christmas is easy to get into. Yeah? It doesn't require too much for you to take part. Christmas, in its current form, speaks to a desire we already have to receive gifts. Christmas feels like it's for everyone. Everybody. Yes? Christmas is for everybody. It feels like it. It's not necessarily, because technically speaking, it's supposed to be a Christian holiday, right? Yeah? But within the context of European culture, they've made it something for everybody. Alright? And so even if it's not for everybody, it feels like it's for everybody. Alright? Christmas has infrastructure. No, you're not hearing what the brethren said. The man said, Christmas has infrastructure. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? What that means is, when you go to Astor, you go here, do they know it's Christmas time at home? Infrastructure. When you go to the city centre, you go to a big Christmas tree. Infrastructure. When you go to Corey's, they're going to have a Christmas sale on. Make it easier for you to buy. Infrastructure. And the lights. And the lights, everything. You walk anywhere in the country, you're going to know it's at Christmas. Switch on TV. You're going to know right now. From August, you're going to know it's at Christmas at come. Infrastructure. You following me? Alright. You get an Uber, and the Uber driver on the radio, you're going to know it's at Christmas. Merry Christmas. Infrastructure. Alright? A war. Yeah? Yeah. When you go to see the mall, you're going to see a big Santa. Yeah? And Filipinos are going to sit up on the knee. Another thing there. Christmas is well established in shopping malls and school plays. Kwanzaa on the other hand, and he left the rest to our imagination. Now, the interesting thing here, now, when he left his comment, he was sincerely answering the question. And nothing that he said here is wrong. It's all true. Alright? But this is what cultural misorientation needs to have in order for it to be effective. Is that going to move me? Yeah. So take the time, we're going to move on. So we get to this point now in the revolutionary 1960s, where Africans are around the world engaged in a fight against the forces and the systems of global white supremacy, colonialism, etc., etc., etc. And an organization, developed called the US Organization. It's led by this elder by the name of Maulana Karenga. He's the author of Introduction to Black Studies and the Hosea. And in analyzing the condition of African people, they come to a conclusion. And the conclusion that they come to is that the key crisis in black life is the culture crisis. The crisis of views and values. In other words, cultural misorientation. So as Omawale Malcolm X was doing in the same period of time, if we recognize that we are culturally misoriented, then we need to exercise some tools of cultural reorientation. And so, as we've already delved into with the words of our Aisha Musa Barashango, we needed tools to emotionally and culturally bind us to our Africanness, but not just our Africanness, to our Africanness in a revolutionary form. Because we're challenging oppression. It is war. So ceremonies have to be a tool of war. So it's important for us to know that the US organization don't just develop a celebration. They develop a celebration within the context of a worldview, a philosophy, which is called Kawaida. And I asked Brother Leader to bring the Kawaida theory booklet, just so you know say it exists. Yeah? We're going to quote from it little piece. Alright? But I want you to understand that KWANZAA is a celebration within the context of Kawaida theory.
Yeah.
Make sense?
Yeah.
Kawaida is a word in Kiswahili that denotes concepts such as tradition, culture, worldview. Everybody with me?
Yes.
And they say at the heart of this project is the continuing quest to define and become the best of what it means to be both African and human in the fullest sense. Papagani says there is no humanity that begins with that which before your race. Yes?
No humanity, but that which Jesus. There's no humanity.
Okay. Begins itself. I'm remembering it slightly differently, but we're going back down here. It says there is no humanity that before that which begins with itself. Yes? We have been taught to get universal in our humanity while disregarding our African selves. Why? Because white supremacy has made itself universal. We've brought into the concept of the universalism of whiteness. So in order to be a human being, we have to mold and shape ourselves into the image of the white man. But Kawaida says, at the heart of this project is the continuing quest to define what and become the best of what it means to be both African and human in the fullest sense. So our humanity is fulfilled through our Africanness. They say culture is the self-conscious collective thought and practice through which a people creates itself, celebrates itself, and introduces itself to history and humanity. So as you can see, the word celebrate is highlighted here. Because KWANZAA is about the celebration of our African selves. Yeah? One of the first things we have to realize is that Africanness is something worth celebrating. You know what I mean? We've been taught to celebrate Africanness. So we need to just know that Africa is something worth celebrating. We celebrate for African names, for African food, and for African political systems and economic systems. Celebrate for African woman and for African man. Because they are African. Yeah? It's good stuff, right?
Yeah.
He says culture must always be self-conscious in concept, construction, and selection. Yes? Self-conscious. We conceive from our own worldview. We construct from our own worldview.
Yes.
We select from our own worldview. And when we do that, we evolve within our own worldview. And come back to what Brother Kobe Campbell said earlier, when we reorientate ourselves in that manner, we cease to self-destruct and begin to self-construct. KWANZAA, a weapon of cultural revolution. A people that do not know they are worth anything are not going to fight for their liberation. Not going to go into this, but just to let you know that the celebration of KWANZAA was built upon the study of indigenous African harvest ceremonies that still exist, yes, on the African continent. Yeah. All right? And I'm moved to study the extent to which, outside of the context of KWANZAA, these harvest ceremonies were preserved among us as Africans in diaspora, particularly among where we had maroon so-called settlements, yeah? Where we're in some bush and some hill. We were fleeing from the enslaver and the colonizer. There are many things that we preserved that will relate to many of these things. And I'm emphasizing that because I'm realizing that as Africans in the diaspora, we need to pay more attention to the extent to which we preserved ourselves. Yeah? Because for some of us, whenever I go to Nigeria, I meet no Yoruba for know about Shango. You follow me? Because we didn't preserve it. Whenever I need to know no Ashanti from Ghana, for know about Kojo, because we are Ashanti in Jamaica. You follow me? And we are Kojo, and Kwaku, and Taki. Yeah? And Kwara. Yeah? And so we need to emphasize that more. Because in the book, Let the Circle Be Unbroken, Mama Remember Ali teaches that the enemy emphasizes the loss of our culture as a means of furthering the cultural disorientation process. So when we encounter it, we feel alienated from ourselves. So we need to emphasize, I'm realizing that more, especially interacting brothers and sisters, but that's another subject for another time. Let's move forward. So, the center of KWANZAA is the Unguzo Saba. The 7 principles. Yeah? In the Al-Qibla Revivalist movement, we say 7 life principles, which in Kiswahili would be something like Maisha Unguzo Saba. I mean, Maisha is life. Yeah? Or Unguzo Maisha Saba. Or something so, depending on the grammar. Yeah? Alright? And so, the 7 principles, remember now, ceremony holidays are designed to create an emotional and cultural bond between you and what you are celebrating. So the center of KWANZAA is the principles of KWANZAA. So we want to celebrate Umoja, unity. I'm not going to read everything for the sake of time. We want to celebrate and develop a cultural and emotional bond to Kujichagulia, self-determination. We want to celebrate and develop an emotional and cultural bond to Ujima, collective work and responsibility. We want to celebrate and develop a cultural and emotional bond to Ujama, cooperative economics. We want to celebrate and develop a cultural and emotional bond to Nia, purpose. We want to develop and celebrate an emotional and cultural bond to Kuumba, creativity. And we want to celebrate and develop an emotional cultural bond to Imani, faith. When you got Africa Bantu and the KWANZAA Children's Party, we'll delve more into this. Yeah? We're not having that today. But these are the same principles. Yes. Yeah? So when we talk about Christmas, it's easy to get into. You know why? Because Christmas today is a commercialized holiday. Yes? Very well marketed. KWANZAA is more difficult to get into. Why? Because it requires work. kunchagulia, ujima, ujamania, kuumba animani.
Yes.
But that is a consequence of the context of African people. We don't want no holidays that don't require us to do work.
That's right.
I hear what you're saying.
If you can do the work for that, you can do the work for this.
I agree with you, my sister. Thank you very much. For those who didn't hear, my sister said, have you ever had to clean a Christmas turkey that has to feed 20 people? It's not easy. So if we can do the work for that, we can do the work for this. Give thanks to that wisdom, my sister. Give thanks. All right? The only issue is that, depending on if you eat turkey, Kwanzaa requires us to do that and then some. You follow me? All right? Let's go forward. I'm nearly done. All right, now. I had Nana Amos Wilson in there as well, but I'll take him out for the second time. Yeah? The issue is that, you see, when we were fighting back against slavery, yeah, and we were winning, yeah, and the oppressor was taking some licks, then come back again, realign and institutionalize colonialism. So we start to fight against colonialism, then come back, recalibrate, and give us neo-colonialism. When we begin to celebrate our Africanness, the oppressor will find skillful ways to allow us to celebrate our Africanness within the context of white supremacy.
That's right.
The message is Kwanzaa, a weapon of cultural revolution.
Yes.
Yeah? The reason why is because it's possible to celebrate Africanness in very superficial ways that don't challenge the status quo. And Kwanzaa, like every aspect of our culture, like every expression of our culture, is in danger of being used in such a way. Yes? Nowadays, in this country, black activism, black power activism is being redefined according to the extent to which we can be considered British. Yeah? So we used to complain that we never weren't getting no jobs.
Yeah.
There weren't no black players in the English football team. Then we were 5. Half the team was black. In the context in which black people in the UK historically never support England. You follow me?
Yeah.
It was almost a rule. If you had a brethren that support England, you cuss him. You follow me?
Yeah.
Black people in England support Brazil and Cameroon and Nigeria and anybody black. Yeah? And then anybody but England. Anybody but England.
England.
Right? In this country.
That's right.
That was the dominant sensibility.
That's right.
Yeah? That's called cultural correct orientation.
That's why England lose.
Yeah? Alright.
England must lose.
So what they did is, they give you 5, 6 black players.
Yeah.
Now there's Magnum on the pitch. You developed a cultural and emotional bond between we and the English football team.
Yeah.
So now we must start supporting England. Yeah, are you following me?
Can't support England.
Yeah?
You need to go one team.
Yeah. They'll make Afrobeat the most popular music in the world. Yeah? Popular commercial success in the world. Mash up charts in the European and the American music industry because that's the only industry that matters. Yeah? Them doing Grammy. Yeah? And what is his name? Oscar. And all of these things. Yes? Because our cultural misorientation has us seeing their institutions as aspirational.
Yeah.
We fight against colonialism and give we independence.
So cool.
So cool. Yes? And so the system and its infrastructure has the means to co-opt what we develop as a weapon of revolution if we are not astute enough and organized enough to challenge the cooptation. So Mama Marimba Army is aware of this. And so she says to us, let us not use Kwanzaa to perpetuate ourselves in a holding pattern. Let us not use it to mark time. We can come together and celebrate some African dance. And some jollof and some egusi. And some jerk. Yeah? Marking time till what? Till we get a black prime minister? If the purpose of Kwanzaa is to help us to be comfortable in the Ma'afa, comfortable because we can wear African gowns to work, comfortable because we can, our boss can pronounce our Yoruba name.
I'm speaking of Yoruba.
I'm speaking of Yoruba, Greek in Yoruba. Yeah. Comfortable because now the London Borough celebrates Black History Month.
Yes, yes, yes. Come on.
Comfortable because they give us prime position at COP 25.
27.
Oh, 27, sorry. I'm behind time. Yeah? Comfortable because we have black cabinet ministers in the government. Comfortable because Kwasi Kwarteng announced the budget and then the pound crashed.
We have the power to crash the power.
No, but not only that do we have the power, but the person who crashed the pound in me and Kwasi Kwarteng.
It was a revolutionary day.
Pan-Afrikan. Comfortable. Yeah? Because there are now enough liberal white folks that will correct their white colleagues if they pronounce your name wrong. That are involved in anti-racist work. Comfortable. If the purpose of Kwanzaa is to help us to be comfortable in this ma'afa, then it is simply an obstruction. We don't need it.
That's right.
And I've been celebrating Kwanzaa for 37 years. To our progress towards the reclamation of African sovereignty. Mama Marimba says, Kwanzaa in its simplistic form is valuable to our very young children who are constantly attacked by icons of white power. But we are not very young children. Yeah? I have to get to big people business.
Yes. Grow up.
We must put away our toys.
That's right.
We must push ourselves to grow. We must use this time to be critical and to prepare for self-governance. That means work, not comfort.
That's right.
We cannot be sovereign and be lazy. We cannot be sovereign and have someone control our resources. African American, African British, Black British is a contradiction in terms. It is an oxymoron. It comes to the individual, the race, and the nation once in a lifetime to decide upon the course to be pursued. The hour has now struck for the individual Negro as well as the entire race to decide the course that will be pursued in the interest of our own liberty. The words of Marcus Messiah Garvey, the prophet. Are we wavering in the confusion of African American ambivalence Black British ambivalence, let us use Kwanzaa and beyond to take us to the next level. Let us use it to develop an African sovereign consciousness in ourselves and to produce a new generation of visionaries among our children. So when we go through the Ongozo Saba, Umoja, Unity, Kulichakulia, Self-Determination, Ujima, Collective Work and Responsibility, Ujama, Cooperative Economics, Nia, Purpose, Kuumba, Creativity, Imani, Faith, the question is, how do we build upon these principles in pursuit of the vision and the goal of world African sovereignty? Ask our children, what contribution will you make according to the principles of Umoja, Kuchabulia, Ujima, Ujama, Nia, Kuumba, and Imani towards achieving the goal of world African sovereignty? Not what are you going to do so that next year you can get a Zawadi, a Kwanzaa gift. Are you following me?
Yeah.
We have to be developing visionaries. Visionaries towards the goal of world African sovereignty. Kwanzaa is a weapon of cultural revolution, but it is only a weapon of cultural revolution in as much as we make it so. In as much as we understand it within the context of the liberation fight of African people and not just another commercialized holiday for us to revel and dance and sing in the universalism of whiteness. I thank you for listening, brothers and sisters. Tenamwari, Tenamwari, Tenamwari.